What is the schedule of interest rates up or down for existing drop participants, and how is it being determined? Would you like to address that one as well, Bonnie?
Sure. Our Board of Trustees determine that rate, and this coming July 1, it'll be 8%.
So again, for our members who are eligible under current drop provisions, their interest rate is based upon the assumed earnings that is determined each fiscal year by our Board of Trustees. How soon can we expect notice on employer contribution rates? Good question. I'll defer that to Tracy. Do we know traditionally when we send out that information?
Yeah, I believe the information goes out near the end of May, beginning of June, to the payroll departments, and it comes out in the form of a transmittal form that specifies what the contribution rates are.
Okay. I believe we have the transmittals, and then there's also like a memo kind of explaining, how you as an employer and payroll should be determining compensation, how things should be submitted and transmitted. And then, of course, with the upcoming ACR issues and how compensation has changed slightly under public safety, we'll have some additional information on those memos as well. So be on the lookout as a payroll for those transmittals. Where can we print off the tables that show the changes specifically to PSPRS? Like I mentioned, it's on our website. If you go to our main page, there is in the middle section kind of a red link that says plan modifications to some degree, plan modifications regarding Senate Bill 1609. I don't know if that's the specific language, but that's where it would be. You just click on that link, and then from there you would choose what plan you want to find that specific table information. And it's been up probably for the past couple weeks. I think we've had it up there. So, next question. For public safety employees that have to contribute during drop, does the employer also still contribute? I think we answered that question previously. No, they do not. Under the language, it's specifically just the employee who will be responsible for contribution if they're required and they elect drop. Where are the PowerPoints located on our website? If you go to the main page, on the left-hand side, there's a link that says Local Board Training. You click on that particular link, it'll take you to our Local Board Training section. And under the headings, Archived Webinars, there would have those archived webinars as well as the PowerPoints associated to that webinar. So this will be up within a couple days as well. So everything when it comes to PowerPoint presentations are located on our Local Board Training section. Are all the rate changes effective July 1, 2011? Well, when it comes to the employee contribution rates that are increasing, yes, that is effective July 1 of 2011. When it comes to the alternate contribution rate, because the language didn't have any specific retroactive attachment to it, that alternate contribution rate goes into effect on the general effective date for all legislation, and that occurs on July 20th of 2011. So contribution rates for both the employee and employer are just as they normally are. They change on July 1, but the alternate contribution rate for all three of our plans go into effect on July 20th. Question on a current retiree. A current retiree in the plan, does their surviving spouse receive the current 80% upon their passing? Yes. So under public safety retirement, there has been no change to survivor benefits for active members. In addition, there's no change to the survivor benefits for the future retirees. All that changes is with respect to new hires who normally retire and are hired after January 1st of 2012. So survivors currently, eligible survivors currently, don't have a change to their benefit, and future survivors of future retirees also will not see a change under public safety. The only change is under elected officials. Interesting question. Does an employee lose quote-unquote grandfathered benefits when they move from one covered position in one employer to a different agency. And I will defer that to Tracy.
No, they do not lose their grandfathering. The only way they lose their grandfathering, as Robert indicated, is if they terminate employment and take a refund. Then they extinguish all rights under the new law, which goes into effect July 20th.
Okay. Yeah, the language in 1609 did put in transfer provisions that basically state that if you transfer from one employer to another and haven't refunded, then you maintain the benefits in effect. Question, how do we determine if a fire chief is eligible to enroll under PSPRS? For example, they are currently contributing to ASRS. Can they change to PSPRS? That is a good question that, again, I will probably defer to Tracy.
With the new language in Senate Bill 13, was it 1317 or 1609?
It was under 1609.
1609. Fire chiefs and police chiefs are eligible to participate in public safety. It's effective July 20th, and it retros back to January 1st of 2009. So if you have a fire chief currently participating in ASRS, your local board can make that decision if they want to put that individual in public safety.
Okay. Thank you. Question on the actuarials. If the employer rate's already been determined, will that change with this upcoming fiscal year? No, nothing's changed. Whatever your rate is in your actuarial that was presented to you, that will be the rate starting July 1 of 2011. Let's see. With employee contribution rates going up and employer contribution rates not going down, does this mean that the total combined contribution rate will be in excess of the actuarially determined total contribution rate? That I'm probably going to have to again defer to our expert, Tracy.
I don't know about expert, but there is some language in Senate Bill 1609. It's called a maintenance of effort. And what they're wanting to do is maintain, as employee rates are going up, they want to maintain the employer rates so that as the employee rates go up, the employer rate does not come down. There's the maintenance of effort. In order to get the plan to their goal of 80% funded within 20 years. So with the new language in 1609, the maintenance of effort keeps the employer rate from reducing when the employee rate increases so that we can reach our goal of 80% funded. So I guess the answer to your question is yes, we will be receiving additional money in order to reach our goal.
Awesome. Question here, since the new employee rate is effective 7/20, which it's not, that's the ACR, do we continue to use the old employee rate for our first two payrolls in July? No. The employee rates and the employer rates do change, but they do change on July 1 of 2011. So as you normally would change your employer rate and contribute differently to us each fiscal year, you now have to also change the employee rate to the new rate, which is going to be for public safety 8.65. For corp, it maintains at the 8.41% or 7.96 if it's a dispatcher. So the only 7/20 effective rate change is the alternate contribution rate. Just another question again on drop in employer rates. Yes, once somebody goes into drop, whether it's under the old provision or the new provision, the employers no longer contribute during that time. How are employers going to calculate contributions if they don't have new actuarial rates? Again, I think we've answered that question. The employer rates aren't changing. Whatever was in your actuarial is what you would be contributing come July 1.
Maybe just remind them that the rates for 2012 are in the June 2010 valuation.
Good point. The rates, the actuarials that you received were for the fiscal year that ended in June 30th of 2010. And those rates are for effective in the fiscal year that starts in July 1 of 2011. So this coming fiscal year that's ending on June 30th of 2011, the information that you receive from your actuarial evaluations, which again normally is about October, November of each year, will reflect rate changes that go into effect on the fiscal year that starts July 1 of 2012 in this particular example. There was a question again dealing with employee and employer rates, why they don't change, and again I think Tracy answered with respect to the language that had the maintenance of effort provisions. That kind of is the reason why the employers aren't seeing a rate change this upcoming July 1, because we've already calculated it based upon the maintenance of effort provisions. This is a question that I'm probably going to have to defer again to Tracy, maybe even Ron or Bonnie. They can weigh in. Can you purchase your drop time for the Arizona State Retirement System?
That would be a no.
Big no.
Big no.
Big no. No, because you're not eligible to enroll in that because you are still technically a member in our plan. So even though you're not contributing to us, you're still a member in our plan, and so you do not have the availability to purchase any of your drop participation plan as time in the Arizona State Retirement System. This is a good question that I think Tracy might be able to answer. Again, dealing with the employee and employer rates. Are the rates effective 7/1 or 7/20, or is it 7/20 retro to 7/1? Well, the language, maybe I will address it. The language in the statutes does, under normal circumstances, you have the general effective date in this particular case, which is 7/20 of 2011. And within 1609, when it comes to employee rates and the rate changes, it does have the retroactive clause that says it's retroactive to July 1 of 2011. So it's the first pay period in July 2001 that you should be paying the new contribution rates on. So if you as an employer are going to wait until the general effective date and then retro it back, you're doing yourself pretty much a big disservice, because now you're going to have to recalculate everything and figure out any type of adjustments and retroactive payments that are due contribution-wise, not only for you, but also potentially for, or not for you, but for your employees, and then you're going to have to go back and do adjustments. You're really kind of creating an administrative headache for yourself if you do it that way. Since we've already presented the information to you, we've told you that there's retroactive clauses on there. We're going to provide you with transmittals prior to July 1 of 2011. Why not just start beginning the new contribution rates with your first pay period that occurs on and after July 1 of 2011, so that you don't have your administrative headache of waiting until July 20th and then doing retroactive payments. So in a nutshell, you're right. There is retroactive, but you don't want to go down that road.